We're here to talk about prison and the experience of prison. We all have really, our perceptions of prison and what it's like to be in prison is shaped by the media, right? It's either Attica or Orange is the New Black. And those are the two things that people know. Unless you've been inside and you've walked the halls and you've lived with the situation, you don't know. So basically, these are all people who have been inside, including me. And it's really an interesting mix, because we have Nick, who is one of our original students, if I remember, about 10 years ago now, something along those lines. We have several people who just got out in July, and we have 6 gentlemen who are still in. We've given them a chair and they've written letters, so we're going to read their letters to you. So as I said, this is not about crime and how you got there, but what happens when you're there.
Instead of trying to describe what it is like from the ground up, I'm going to have you picture high school. When you think back at high school, I want you to picture high school. Now take out the people you liked, the people you were comfortable with, your people. Take out the people. And then go ahead and take out the fact that you get to go home, because you don't get to go home. You are now at high school, and you're stuck there every day, every night, and you don't have your people, and you don't have classes you like. So you get all the anxiety, you get none of the dogs, you get a distinct amount of fear because you know none of the people around you. And they already don't like you, so you don't like them either. There are no manners. There is no please. There is no thank you. I can count on one hand all of those I heard in 2 years. So, with this in mind, now you can also take out the opposite sex. So there's not a lot of redeeming things to look for when you wake up in the morning. And you wake up as soon as possible. Because if you get up early, you might get a moderately warm cup of coffee. If you can afford coffee. You learn some interesting skills that you wish you would have learned before you got there. At any point in time, I could have told you how much money I had in my account within 2 cents. Because you make a mistake and you miss out on a bag of M&Ms that was going to last you 2 weeks, it really sucks. And when you order things like, I got a job, I got a good job, I was making so much money. It wasn't so much money. But I worked really hard so I could afford coffee, M&Ms. Like, these things were special, and now they make me want to vomit. M&Ms were so special. Kid you not. I could make a little brown bag of M&Ms last me 2 weeks. Now you give me M&Ms and I am physically sick. It changes who you are in good ways and bad. But if you're going to change for the good, you're changing it in a bad place. So it takes extra effort to find yourself and not make it like high school where you're really just trying to fit in. At no point did I want to fit in. Because these weren't my people. This wasn't the scene. You just want to survive. So you stay extra quiet, because if you say anything, somebody's not going to like it. So you just try and keep quiet. You try and melt into the walls. But the walls are just red with anxiety. There is zero quiet, I remember that. 2 a.m, the sound of 75 other people breathing in the same room is deafening. You think you have a partner you sleep next to that snores? Whew. I had 75. And you know no one else is happy. There's nothing to be like, oh, I want to hang out with that guy. At least that guy's hanging out. I want to exercise. That's the best way to get punched in the mouth. Go play basketball. Think you're going to have fun. I had this tooth turned totally sideways by someone who was upset. And you have to put it back yourself because the school nurse sucks. School nurse is going to pull that thing right the fuck out. So if you want to keep your teeth, you're your own dentist. And it doesn't seem like, I've never seen Orange is the New Black or Attica. I'm assuming it's palatable for public consumption, but you take your worst version of high school, take all your friends out, and then be stuck there for who knows how long. And there you go. Welcome to prison. If you're really lucky, you could have visitors. You don't want them there. It's a bad place. It's just bad. My family insisted I got visitors. But it was more for them, so they knew I was still breathing. And if it's not your family, a couple of my family, but nobody wants to get caught, do they? So, I mean, I'm sure my friends here will expand upon that, and maybe somebody had a better experience. And I know it sounds grim, because it is grim. So we're just setting the stage for what it is right now. I'll pass it.
I think that just having the program is like it's a big thing. Obviously, Rima has really helped me progress in my transition. Malcolm and Mirabai as well. Mirabai Collins, who was, what was her position?
She was the educational outreach coordinator.
She was the educational outreach coordinator before myself, and she kind of taught me the ropes on how to do it, what would be going on, the struggles I would have, what may and may not arise. And it's just been like a really great experience working with Kate and our departed Anthea, or
She's alive.
our the other word, our left Anthea, getting to know everyone on the team, Dash, Angel, and just the work that all the work Rima does is amazing. I think going through the program really gave me like an outside to like a positive something outside of prison, because before I met Rima and Mirabai, I really didn't know what was going to happen or where I would be in the next 9 months at that point. And it was painstaking, to say the least. But when I met Rima, she was like, you should talk to Mirabai about Black futures. And she gave me the info, and I was automatically like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to garden. And now I'm the Black Outreach Coordinator at Let Us Grow, and I love it. I thank Rima every day because she's wonderful. I can always call her and be like, Rima, I need your help, and she would be like, I got you, I will make this work for you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions?
You had a great analogy to what happened during COVID.
Oh, so COVID, just COVID in jail was like locking yourself in the smallest room in your house, bathroom, put a bed in the tub, lock the door, call your most unreliable friend and be like, hey, you need to drop off 3 meals a day. Hopefully one's hot. If it's not, I'll deal with it. And then they'll bring you a sack lunch with 2 meals and then a kind of warm meal later. Just getting help, just getting out of the cell was, was a huge, like, to take a shower. Obviously there's no showers in the cells if nobody knows. So maybe every 2 days we would get to shower if we were lucky because we were on a tier system. So only 3 or 4 people come out to shower a day or at a time. And then by the time, if you're, depending on where you're at in the unit, it would be like, oh, well, I've been waiting on a shower all day and it's bedtime. So sometimes you're working out and you're like, oh, yeah, I have to get in the shower. And then you're like, nope, gotta go to bed. And then you just gotta push the button the next day and be like, hey man, I didn't get a shower yesterday. They're gonna be like, well, we'll be there in 3-4 hours. And that's what COVID was like. Phone calls, very little. Just call your bad friend and ask them to do something for you. That's jail in a nutshell.
And I want to talk a little bit about how the mental health situation is in prison. There's not a lot of help that you can get there. The officers don't really, they're kind of a hands-off kind of situation. So imagine that you're living with, in each dorm there's about 140 women in an open dorm setting. And you're seeing women self-harm themselves. You're seeing people that have had children die when they're in prison. And they're struggling and they're asking for help. And we have a minimum and a medium side. And in the medium side, you get a little bit, you know, you have, you're more closely watched, you get help, people check on you more often. As far as counselors and medical goes. People asking not to be sent over to minimum because they need and require more care. They don't feel secure, maybe they're schizophrenic, maybe they have issues. They've had issues all their lives. When they come to prison, they take you off all your meds. Even if you've been prescribed, you've been taking them for 10 years. They'll put you on a different medication saying that insurance doesn't cover that other particular medication. They'll start you at a different dose. So all of a sudden, everything falls out from underneath you. You have no support. That was really, I mean, if you're a person that has any compassion, it's a hard place for a woman to be. You think it would be all these women nurturing each other. Number one, that's not allowed. One of my good friends, her 21-year-old daughter had 2 little children, and she was out walking home one night, and she was hit and killed by a hit-and-run driver. And we weren't allowed to hug her. We were not allowed to be by her bunk. We weren't even supposed to really go down her street. We call them streets. How the dorm goes like this. So easy to slip right back in there. Anyways, so I mean, imagine somebody sobbing there. And she goes to I worked for the chaplain for 2 years as well as a gardener. And she comes in, she gets the news. The chaplain obviously is offering her phone calls and whatever she can do. But as soon as that visit's over with the chaplain, she's on her own. Not everybody's nice in there either. So there's girls that are like, oh my gosh, can you just shut up already? That's hard to witness too, because you can't stand up for anybody. Because then all of a sudden, I mean, you do, because you know, in certain circumstances, you just have to. But then you get bullied, you get picked on, things happen, you know. So it's a struggle to see people suffer like that unnecessarily because of lack of staffing. The turnover is really high. All the counselors very rarely stick around very long because of multiple issues. Medical's another situation. The COVID thing was just ridiculous. There was a lot of intimidation on getting tested because If somebody tested positive in a dorm, 2 people, they had to shut that dorm down, and special accommodations like bringing the meals to the, it was extra work for the officers, in other words. So there was a high intimidation level on people testing. If you tested, the inmates bullied you because they didn't want to get locked down. They would rather have it spread through everybody else, and so people who had situations where they had, where they were vulnerable, say, elderly, had health risk problems, were scared to go get tested because they would come and test in a positive way. They would come right into the door and say, okay, everybody who wants to test, come up here. And they would test you like that instead of like letting you go to medical and get tested privately. So it was hard to be in a situation where you don't feel comfortable seeking out medical treatment or mental health treatment. The other positive side I want to talk about, as far as mental health treatment, working with REMA was so great in there. I got to be work full-time with I had the best of both worlds. I worked full-time for the chaplain, and I worked full-time in the guard for almost the whole time I was there. And it was so important to be able to be outside and get my hands in the dirt and just be in nature. It really connected me. It was a spiritual thing for me as well. Just seeing the wildlife, seeing the birds. I took care of the hummingbirds and whatever in prison, and I was tracking all the different varieties. And just being still and quiet with nobody else being out there was really a blessing. Taking all the classes were so important, which is also an issue, specifically at Coffee Creek. When they started bringing classes back, the scheduling was not done right, so a lot of the programs dropped out because they could never find a room. Everybody was fighting for rooms. They would double book them. And so girls would sign up for things and then they would get canceled because it's like, we don't have the room, so we're just not going to do it right now. And the most important thing in prison is to stay busy, keep your mind active, to learn, to grow. In those situations where you're in class, you get to be a little bit closer with your fellow, female inmates. You can support one another in that setting because there's no cameras, there's no officers, there's no rules stating that you cannot, care for somebody else or help somebody through a hard problem. So there's no backlash. So the programs are very, very important, and like Keani said, REMA's amazing. I mean, you got how many girls? We have like 8 or 9 girls, and every week she comes in. We all have lists of everything we want her to do. Hey, can you get this for us? Can we have this type of plan? Can we do this? Remind her about just crazy stuff. And she always smiles and she always gets it done, And so it's really important to have the Guardian program. And just afterwards, she's been very, very supportive in helping with trying to find employment. Any tools I need, I came and got tools for her because I'm doing landscaping on the side. And she said, just come get what you need. And it was that simple. I went down, picked out whatever tools I needed, and so that was my experience in prison. And so I'm going to pass it on now.
And before I dig into my whole story, I wanted to mention I also love birds. I love birds. And from the little window by my bunk in the dorm, I had my husband send in a bird book, and I kept track of all the different species that I saw over the 4 years that I was incarcerated. And I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it was north of 30 different species of birds just from that one window that I can see up at Columbia River Correctional Institution in North Portland here, which is like the Columbia River Slough goes through there, if you don't know. So there's lots of wildlife, nutrias, raccoons, possums, all kinds of things. So let me just say that when I was asked to be a part of this discussion, I wasn't really sure which angle I kind of wanted to come at it from, because I like to tell stories, generally speaking, and I thought, God, they're going to kick me out if I just like ramble on and talk. So in a moment, I'm going to talk a little bit about the experience of being a queer person in prison. But I wouldn't be standing in my truth if I didn't say that America has an incarceration problem. America has a prison problem. It is a humanitarian crisis, in my opinion. The rates at which people are locked up, taken away from their families and their communities, and it's something that it's something that needs to change. And I've been a prison abolitionist before I was incarcerated, and I'm damn sure a prison abolitionist now. I don't think that the system can fundamentally be changed. I think it needs to be dismantled, and we need something new. That said, there are very, very few exceptions from my experience of genuinely positive, rehabilitative, therapeutic, happy, healthy options in prison, and the Let Us Grow program is absolutely one of them. It is by far the thing that helped me survive the 4 years that I was incarcerated. My husband and I have had a community garden plot for over 10 years, and I've been a sustainable gardener and worked in at a Saw Valley Farm, and I've done all the gardening things. So when I discovered that there was a garden program at CRCI, I did everything I could immediately to get in on that. To make that happen, I want to give a little bit of the logistics. So you did a great job kind of explaining high school hell, which is what I call prison as well. I mean, just the worst. With like the worst PE coach, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you've heard about what's going on, but you've got staff members sexually assaulting people at Coffee Creek. You've got that happening in different places. I was sexually harassed by a CO during a strip search after I saw my family one day as I was naked and made remarks. And this stuff happens like every day and doesn't get like reported. And if you do report it, it's like you're a target at that point. So there's a lot of that bad stuff. But what I was getting at was to make something happen, something as simple as like me writing a thing, getting it into the right person's hands to get into the garden program. It's a struggle. So in prison, the communication forms are called kites. I don't know if you've ever heard about that. That's what they're called in basically every prison, a kite. Send a kite, fly a kite, whatever. That is, here's my name, here's who I'm sending this to, and here's the thing I want to communicate. So I think the Pony Express can probably like deliver things more quickly, like across the country, than getting something from the unit you're on to like an office down the way. It's a thing. I've had a lot of time to reflect on myself and my privilege in the situation, and how the way that I was able to kind of present myself and be seen by people when I was in there. So like I definitely had that kind of I don't want to call myself a Karen, because that's just not who I am, but I definitely was like, I need to talk to the manager. Like, I kind of like played that card when I needed to make things happen, to get my needs met. And so I was able to find this one person, I can't remember her name right now, but she worked in the admin office, and I charmed her basically, and she was able to kind of say, oh, let me just go ahead and deliver this kite for you. And you seem like you know a lot about the garden, yada yada. And then I was able to talk to Rima pretty quick.
Yeah.
That's not really how it happens for everyone. You know that. I mean, the capacity of the program is kind of fixed, and the demand for it is so high, right? So I'm very fortunate. I was very grateful that I was able to get in. By the time I left, I was facilitating the Seat to Supper class, the course, which is really cool. The Oregon Food Bank and OSU? Or,
Yeah, OSU.
Yeah. Super cool program, class. And so I could talk about the actual garden part. Maybe we'll have time for that in a minute and like some questions or something. But just to give a little bit, I want to paint like a little bit clearer picture about the need for Let Us Grow and the work that they do in prison, and why it is so important and meaningful, and why it needs to be supported, and it needs to be something that like never goes away. I was telling Rima the other day, like if the garden programs disappear, I really don't even want to think what that would mean for the people, for people's mental health, for people just. I assume that this is a pretty friendly audience of people that understand the healing value of just touching the soil, just being there, just like how it heals the soul of everything, right? And also that when you see something start and finish any project, that's great. But when you see a plant or a seed or a start or something, and then you're harvesting off of that at the end, that's huge. That does not happen anywhere else in prisons. Let me tell you, that doesn't happen. There's no, look at this great big achievement that I have, or look at how the full circle aspect of this, it doesn't happen. And so I gardened for years and years before I was incarcerated. A lot of probably most of the people in the program never have.
Right.
And that was, for me, was a really cool thing. I was a social worker before I was incarcerated, and it was so cool for me to see people that have never gardened before, love the same thing that I love, like the hobby, the passion that I had, but also to see people that were like guys that I never would have talked to otherwise, right? Like the people that I was like, this guy looks mean, like I'm not gonna talk to him, like and to see them out in the garden, and every one of those little things that makes us different from one another, they kind of dissolve and just disappear in the garden. That is very unique. That doesn't happen. I mean, even the like recovery groups and things that meet have a lot of politics involved, and so there's like, it just doesn't happen in the garden, in my experience. And so the value of it is real. The value of getting dirty and, seeing living things besides the 75 other people farting and pissing themselves and snoring and night terrors, all the things that happen in a unit is really bad. By the way, when I was laying on my bunk, Unit 5, bunk 33 Bravo, I was there for 4 years in that same bunk because I had a job as a clerk. One of the highest paying job, I made $78 a month, working literally full time, so let me just be real clear about that. Y'all can do the math on what that is hourly, but those are that's not great. But when I'm laying on my bunk, I can literally, not that they would let me, but I could literally hold hands with both people. That's how close you are to the other people, right here. We can hold hands. You're like, no, you're further away from the other bunk, actually. No, you're further away. So that's your reality. That's your life all the time. Getting to escape that, even if it's just an hour-long class, or maybe we go out to the garden and you know what, we had that torrential downpour and we can't be outside anymore. Security won't let us, or it's really raining too hard to be outside. Fine, whatever, I'll take my 5 minutes. We had slicker suits that we were able to use sometimes in the garden, and I was like, let me drown out here. I'm not going back in until y'all make me. And so, and the other folks that were involved in the program, the other adults in custody, that's the PC term that, yeah, that's what the Oregon Department of Corrections, their real name is Oregon Department of Corruption, by the way, so Google that. But that's my own little extra grind. But I like seeing people that were, I remember this one guy, no names, but I suffered from depression. He suffered from very, very deep depression that was mostly untreated. He was in the program. You couldn't get him to get up in the morning for anything, right? Let me sleep away this entire experience, whatever. That was the one thing that he would get up early in the morning to go do, was to go, the one thing. And it changed for him, right? I'm convinced that got him through, and that he survived, because of that opportunity and the joy that it brings. Another thing. There's a lady that works, her name's Miss Elliott, at the Columbia River Kitchen. She's one of the kitchen coordinators, and lovely woman. She was the person who, when we would take the harvest and whatnot, we would bring it to the kitchen in hopes that it would make it onto the plates. Usually the kitchen workers ate all of it, and so the general population wouldn't really see anything from the garden, But Miss Elliott would really try to do what she could, every once in a while it would be a special occasion, and she would make us, so every meal you have iced tea, or iced, it's not iced. You have tea, unsweetened room temperature tea, but she would take mint, we had mint growing, and some sugar, and make this mint tea. So every once in a while you got this little bitty taste of freedom and real stuff, and I love that she took the time to do that, and I kind of had an in with her. That's how prison is. It's so weird. And every once in a while she would like call me down, like, don't tell security, but like, and make like special little meals for people that she liked or that she worked with or whatever. And because I worked in the garden, I was one of the people that got to be, called down. And so like, when you have something like that, you don't want to give it up. You really don't. I can't even tell you how many people would come to me and say like, get me in, I want to be in the garden, I want to be out there with y'all, I want to do all this stuff. And it was like, and I would love for you to be there. We would all love for you to be there. The capacity doesn't really exist yet, and I can't speak as much to the REMA and everyone admin side of things, but this is not a like DOC program that you're running here, and so those are kind of divergent interests, right? I will wrap up in a minute because I can just keep talking and then we can go back, I guess. But I really don't want the impression that I'm giving off to be that I'm very cynical. It's just the reality of kind of what the situation is like. Like it's not. Other people may have a different experience in this, right? But I don't believe that I'm a better person than I was when I went in, right? Like prison really messed up my life. Not even mentioning like my own life that kind of led me to be there in the first place. Not that prison's bad, prison doesn't rehabilitate, prison doesn't fix your life, prison does not make the general public safer at all. Recidivism rates are still really high. Prison is punishment. It's I believe it's like a weird, sick, twisted way for our culture to have a caste system in place that says, you're here, you're here, you're here, you belong here, don't move, that's where you're gonna stay. That's what prison does. And so I have zero things good to say about prison. I have infinite good things to say about Let Us Grow and Growing Gardens and the work that y'all do and how important this kind of thing is. So before I just get like real worked up, I'm gonna turn it over to Rima, and then we have some letters to read too from the other guys, so let me know when you want to do that.
Okay. They locked everybody out when COVID started. They locked out all the contractors and all the volunteers. They pulled all our cards because we are contractors. They don't pay us, but we're contractors. It gives us a lot of access to come back in. And we were coming in between the waves of COVID, we would come in. And I remember walking in the first time, I went out to the garden, and there's Colt and one other guy, and they looked at me, and they said, you are the first person we have seen that wasn't a CO or a counselor in 6 months. So they had been cut off, limited phone calls, and literally locked in units. Being locked in a unit with, 80 of your best friends, right? It's really difficult because they are loud and noisy, and it's just the sheer number of people that are in a room. But I do remember going, hey, Cole, he's like, wow, you're here. And it's like, and I will be here, we will be here as long as they let us come in, And we every time, and we did that at Coffee Creek too, every time, they had another COVID thing, they threw us out, we came back in. It's the resilience of the program really helps. But I have a really brief story, and I actually just did the math, and I'm absolutely horrified. 52 years ago, the state of Arizona sent me to the Arizona Women's Penitentiary. I was sentenced to 2 years, I only did 4, because the judge actually read my juvenile record and used that to sentence me as an adult. And he actually said that in the summation, that I was no good, I was going to be perpetual trouble, and he gave me the longest sentence he could get. Of course, reading a juvenile record is totally illegal, but hey, it's Arizona, So I was sent to the women's penitentiary, which is very close to hell. And at the time I was there, which is literally over 50 years ago, there were no bones about it. It was punishment, and you were there to be punished. And they did punish us. It was a horrifying place. It's very akin to Rikers Island, if anybody's familiar with the situation over there. And it came to the similar end, it burnt down, and they decided not to rebuild it because it had too many problems. When I got out of there, I had 4 years of indoctrination that I was a piece of crap, that I would never do anything useful, and I would go right back to what I was doing. I then was thrown out by my family, who were horrified, and my tribe. I'm a Native American, and I took off. I went from Arizona, from a town of 15,000 people, to New York City to go to college. And actually, I got through college, I got through graduate school, ended up working in high tech, but I did it out of anger. I was so angry about what had happened to me that I had something to prove. That A, I could be successful, and that B, I was worth something. Because all prison taught me was I was worth nothing. And to get over that, to deprogram yourself from that, is a really difficult thing to do, because it's always on the back of your head. It took me well into my 30s to understand that everybody's hand was not against me. No matter how successful I was, no matter what I did, I was convinced it would all fall apart because I didn't deserve anything. I was crap. I was just this dumb Indian chick. You know, so, and it took a toll. I mean, I wrecked relationships. For a long time, I was estranged from my children because, frankly, I didn't trust anybody. Nothing I learned in prison taught me to trust people. I got back into doing this work. I was able to retire early because I don't want people to do that. I don't want people to come out worse than they come in. Being able to use the garden as a way to channel people's energy, to give them quiet, to give them healing, also to give them food. The other thing that people don't realize is the Department of Correction grows a lot of their own food. In a non-COVID year, they grow about 360,000 pounds of food. 95% of it is going into the kitchens, which is really good because they spend $1.49 per day to feed an inmate. And I will not tell you what that food is like. There have been, I don't know, how many lawsuits about the food? A frightening number of lawsuits. The food is absolutely not fit for human beings. I actually have moved food back and forth from the minimum. We brought tomatoes in, so the ladies in the higher level of security could have tomatoes because they don't get them. They get, what, 2 fruits a day, 2 fruits a week or something, bananas twice a week, and an orange if you're lucky. The nutrition is there, and we've had an ongoing discussion with the DOC how to get the food, because some of the food service coordinators don't want to mess with the food. I actually had a guy sit there and tell me, why would I do this? I could just open a bag of frozen stuff and throw it out, you know, and just heat it. And it's kind of like, but you don't do that. You have a whole kitchen crew that does this. And they're more than happy to wash the food and put it on the trays. But it's just having to move the mentality. I do think that we are very slowly and painfully moving towards more rehabilitation, but I don't think we've decided as a society that if we are punishing people or rehabilitating them. You know, what's prison for? Is it to punish people? Well, shit, we know how to do that. We can punish people. If it's to rehabilitate them, how do we do it? And I don't think we've solved that one at all.
When he said $78 a month, I'm like, we got the same job. I worked in some coordinator's office, and all the classes that happened came through her office. And I sat at my little desk, and I had to learn Word or something like that, and I would type little letters all day, and guys would come in, and we'd get them all their little, if you were leaving, hey, this is how you find food stamps where you're going. This is how you find this is how you find that. Here's some things in your area. Oh, you're from the east side of the state. Sorry, good luck. There's none of that. Good luck. So this garden program came across her desk. But in order to have the garden program happen, somebody has to take attendance. And she didn't know. She called me Nicholas. I remember that. It was very important that she called everybody by their name that was on the paper. There was no nicknames, no nothing. And it wasn't Mr., it was just your first name. Nicholas? Yeah, what's up? Might need you to take attendance for something. Now, you try and stay busy, but you don't want to be that busy. I could get to watch like 15 minutes of a movie before we have to do something else. Tell me about it. She said, well, they want to come in and they want to do a garden. And I said, well, that sounds nice. Do I get to do a garden? Now, I will admit, I was super selfish on this one. She was like, well, you can take the class if you want to take attendance. And I was like, I'm in. And as was noted down here, when we finally got the class roster, nobody knew what it was, but a bunch of people signed up for it. You got a bunch of guys sitting in a room like, what are we signing up for? We're in a classroom. And the first volunteer came in, and nobody knew what to think. Because this person wasn't asking what we did, and didn't care, and wasn't going to ask. He was so excited about plants that it was bewildering. This guy was awesome. And he was talking about plants in their own little world, and he had all his handouts. And everyone in the room was a little bit stunned. Like, whole hour-long class, gave us stuff to look at. If you have questions next time, and I'll be back. Crickets in this room. Nobody got up. Everybody's like, what just happened? But there was going to be gardening, and he was going to be back, and it seemed like a nice enough day. And every volunteer that came in, just like being outside, when a volunteer came in, the playing field was level. Yeah, I know you killed someone. Yeah, you do make me really nervous. But if we're going to talk about green beans, I'm in. It was so weird. And there must have been, when I was there, I remember at least 4 different volunteers. And we got protected. There's one volunteer, there's a pretty lady that came in. She walked in the room, and every guy in there was like, she shouldn't be here. But she was super sweet and taught us for an hour. And one of the first weirdest things I heard was when she left, and someone who was outside goes, oh my gosh, did you see that? She's with us. I was like, he's got sisters. But we were really protective of the people that were there. Now I will tell you, this is embarrassing for me. And that was 2009. Somebody do the math. But I still show up. I still build boxes. I come to these whether I feel like, I don't feel like this is good for me. But I know how important that garden was for me, and I know how important that garden was for those guys. And I've been back once or twice to see people in the garden. I'm just like, yep, that's important. So I'm here because it's important. And the people who do it, as you can have heard, are important. Because in your high school of hell, with nothing else good going on, if you get something truly good, you might just fucking make it.
Being gay or queer or trans or non-binary or anything other than, cis, heterosexual, all that stuff, is really hard in prison. Shocker, I know. What I will say is I think we maybe did have the same job, by the way, which is kind of funny. But some privileges came with that, which was really cool. The people I worked for were kind of protected. But the garden program in this space and all of that, totally a safe space, a safe place, a place of trust, a place where you can let your guard down, put your hair down, whatever. That was one of the things I loved about it as well. That and then my Buddhist meditation group that I was part of as well. Those were the two places that I felt the most safe when I was in there. And safety is like really, really important. To have the concept of safety and the feeling of safety. I mean, I don't feel safe when I'm using the restroom. I don't feel safe when I'm in the shower. I don't feel safe when I'm walking to the chow hall. I don't feel safe getting strip searched after a visit with my mom. That kind of thing. But I felt safe in those places and the acceptance and whatnot. That's huge. Don't get me wrong. I did have lots of other queer friends. There's a lot of queer identified people in prison, like a lot. Which I think we should talk about that too at some point. But like why that might be, like why are we locking up certain groups of people? And we had each other's back. But what was so wonderful about the garden program is that you didn't have to worry about having someone else's back. You were just okay being you. You could bring your full self to the table. I could just talk the way I talk and act the way I act and be myself, and didn't have to feel stiff, and rigid and just kind of going through emotions a certain way or talk to this guy but not that guy. So anyway, that I wanted to get that plug in before we moved on, but thanks.
It is a safe place. Interestingly enough, the garden is by mutual agreement a safe place. It's one of the few places where we do have racial mixing. Instead of you have people dividing out by ethnicity, you don't mix because it isn't safe to mix. The garden is one of the places where it is safe, and we do that by agreement. And I think we've only had one incident where a volunteer actually got between two people and said, "That's not what we agreed to. You can't do that here." And they both backed off. So, it's really important. And I think the other thing is that people will listen to. I mean, Colt, became like the lead gardener. He was teaching people, and people were respecting that and asking him questions. And Michelle got to be really good at gardener. She had a beautiful garden and worked through an illness. She was ill while she was in and having a tough time, but actually was managing to come out. And when she couldn't, the other gardeners were covering for her. It forms community. We become communities as we work together, as we work with people for over the course of at least one season, if not longer. We become a community. We become a little self-sustaining community within the prison system where people, and we bicker, the groups bicker. Sometimes it turns into therapy. We've had garden meetings turn into therapy sessions. But it's a community, and people feel comfortable enough to do that, which normally they won't do because you don't want to show any weakness. We can clearly go on for a long time, but we do have letters. We have 6 gentlemen from OSCI who are not here because they are still doing time, but they have written letters. So we're going to have Colt and Kate, who is our educator, Mid-Valley, and I are going to read the stories.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here. I'm really honored to share the stage with you all. I also want to highlight everyone else who is incarcerated in Oregon who we don't have these letters from, who we also work with, and who are doing the thing. They're working in the garden, they're taking the classes, they're encouraging me, at least, Rima, I'm sure, too, to be continually making more classes, creating more curriculum, doing more in the garden to support them. So anyway, I have a class going right now. Last Monday I asked if anyone wanted to write anything to contribute to this conversation, so we're going to kind of trade off, but I will start. Since I'm serving 27 years in prison, I never thought I would find myself learning about what plants are compatible with one another, or how to identify what's wrong with a damaged plant, or the difference between sucking and chewing insects. One of my favorite conversations. With the Let Us Grow programs offered for inmates, I not only find myself learning all this and so much more, but it has become a true passion of mine. I truly feel the Let Us Grow program has given me the knowledge that helps me both mentally and physically. Having the skills to take a seed and watch it grow into a beautiful plant that you helped along the way is an amazing feeling. I don't have much to look forward to in here, but for a couple hours a week, while I'm in Kate or Sherry, one of our wonderful volunteers, class learning more about my newfound passion, I'm free, even if for a short time. I also enjoy sharing all I've learned with my 2 young daughters, 11 and 12 years old, who now have plants of their own. I can honestly say the Let Us Grow program has helped change my life for the better. Thank you. And this is from an AIC in Buford. Okay, got another one, right? Yeah, maybe we can trade off. Okay, so can we all one? Thank you.
This is from Samuel. Prison does not offer a lot of opportunities for growth and knowledge. So when I saw this class being offered, I was very excited and I immediately signed up. Instructor Kate is very knowledgeable and makes learning easy. With as much as I have learned from how to do composting to check and correct soil pH, to determine exact problems and how to correct them on a commercial or residential scale. I have learned so much botany skills and ability to participate in growing my own and to be able to garden now and become employable and confident. I am very grateful for this opportunity and encourage all the population to continue with, their classes and growing the curriculum. Thank you. Sorry, handwriting. I feel bad because mine is so bad. Colt, you got one?
All right, this letter is from Brayden, who is incarcerated currently in Oregon State Correctional Institution. And I do want to say too that I know that I'm not staff with Growing Gardens, but y'all are, and I know you're very humble people, and the letters are very flattering for both of you, and that's for good reason. I want to say everyone loves everyone who comes into prison. So any thing in here that is, a little flattering is because they absolutely deserve it, and people really care about them.
Stop.
So, let's see. Hello, my name is Brayden. I am an incarcerated man at Oregon State Correctional Institution. I've been working in the field of landscape construction and lawn care from age 16 until my incarceration at age 19. In my 3 short years, I learned a great deal. I had several great mentors who provided help and advice in both the physical aspects of the trade as well as the business aspects relevant to the owner of a small business. I've enjoyed and been involved with all aspects of landscaping my entire life. In this brief paper, I will address my personal opinions of the Let Us Grow program. I've been involved with the program in the capacity of a student. I've taken several classes to Let Us Grow, including sustainable gardening, greenhouse management, plant pathology, and plant taxonomy, the latter having been created recently. The class where I was a student for the first time, he was saying he was in the first group for that class. Kate did an outstanding job in creating and teaching said class. The taxonomy class was masterfully designed and was extremely informative. My experience with all classes taught by Miss Kate has been great, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my time in her classes. Miss Sherry has been an amazing instructor as well. My first interaction with her was during my first class through Let Us Grow called Sustainable Gardening. The aforementioned was, in my opinion, the most complete and extensive class I've experienced in the field of gardening and botany. I believe that programs such as Let Us Grow are crucial in the rehabilitation of incarcerated individuals. While incarcerated, one has a choice to make, better oneself or don't. Educational programs are the primary means for people to make positive change in their lives. Statistics on recidivism rates confirm this. Furthermore, I believe that trade-oriented classes are the most productive in preparing individuals for success upon release. Individuals can find gainful employment much more readily with the proper knowledge and skill in the respective field. And I believe that Let Us Grow is an incredible program for all the AICs in Oregon.
My name is Ty Adler. I've been incarcerated since 2015. Incarceration has a way of taking away your sense of self-worth. We are given very few opportunities to change that can be found here. Let Us Grow has helped change that. One day I noticed a flyer in my housing unit offering a chance to enroll in a course in greenhouse management. I decided to go out on a limb and apply. I was accepted. It turned out to be one of the most engaging and enriching activities I've done while incarcerated. The class consisted of designing an entire greenhouse, including labor, expense, and schedule. It took a lot of work, but I was very proud of the final product. I even pushed past my fear of public speaking when I presented my final project in front of the class. Although I doubt I'll become a professional greenhouse designer, this class helped me grow in many ways.
Following up what Colt said, I meant to say this at the beginning, but anything that refers to me, I guess I just kind of put back onto Rima and Let Us Grow as a program. Rima is a great leader for all of us, for the way that we approach the work and that the program is still sustaining. So I just wanted to put that up there. The last one, yeah. Oh, okay, great. Okay, my name is Dakota. Let Us Grow has had a huge positive impact in my life. With their help, I found a career that I am pursuing while I'm incarcerated to further my success in society. I don't know what I would do without their help and knowledge, as they are truly caring, amazing people.
This is the last letter. This is from someone named Bo. Get this handwriting under control here. Let's see. Hello, my name is Bo. I released after 18 years in December. To give you a perspective of what programs like the OSU Plant Diagnostics and other prison education programs have done for me, wow, it simply changed my life. Until I took my first class, I never imagined I could actually successfully complete a college-level program. Since I did, it's given me the confidence to pursue a degree, which I'm working towards and very proud of. As unfocused as I was when I came to prison, with such a long prison sentence, it took 4 years, I think it's 4, it might be 9, to find higher education. And once I did, it completely changed me and my thinking. I started setting goals and intentionally made the effort to control my behavior so I could reach my educational goals. The OSU gardening class is exceptionally good for me and has been a positive experience because I enjoy nature and I think it's therapeutic. The class inside OSCI with Kate helps many of us who want to be involved in pro-social activities learn good communication skills needed for when we get out and learn how to care for the environment around us. So if there's ever a question if these programs benefit us in prison, I'd say it does. And I will certainly contribute to my successful re-entry back into society because it hasn't been 18 years because of the prison staff. Kind regards, Bo.
People have no opinions about this. We're running across very common themes here. People find us. People are helped. The system is not helping people. We serve at the discretion of the Department of Correction. They do not pay us. We are one of a number of nonprofits who actually do work within the correctional system. Matter of fact, it drives Jason crazy because they provide us with letters when we go for grants. And in the letter, it says, this is one of the most successful, cost-efficient programs the Department of Correction has. And he goes, they don't pay us. And I'm going, it's cost-efficient. The unfortunate thing is that literally rehabilitation, if we believe it, is not being performed by the state, who has the primary responsibility here. It's being done by nonprofits. And that, to me, is a giant issue. This is something, if we really believe we want to rehabilitate people, this is something that they need to be responsible for, and they're not. But, that doesn't mean we won't come in, that doesn't mean that anybody else who's doing work, PSU, PCC, the Girl Scouts, and everyone who is working inside won't. But we really would like to make the system change. I would ask if there's any questions from the audience, then I want to ask everybody on the stage one more question. What would you like people to advocate for, or what would you like done? I know, try to keep it under 2,000 words, but what would you think would improve the situation, and what would you like people to take away from this conversation?
I can start unless someone feels compelled to jump on the mic. You mean, what would we change in prison, or what would...
We try to get takeaways for people about what would you like to see change, and what would you like people to do. I mean, for me, it's like, always ask the DAs when people run to be DA, a DA, district attorney, is what's their position on plea bargains? Plea bargains get people time and felony records, and they are very heavily used in communities of color, and people, because they lack representation and money, don't know what they're signing up for when they take a plea bargain. We had a former DA who ran on the fact that he saw that 95% of the cases in this county were solved by plea bargains. That's evil. Either charge somebody, and one of the things that happens with the plea bargain is they tell you they're going to charge you with a whole bunch, they overcharge you, and then say, I see head shaking here, like, you're going to get 10 years. But if you take the plea bargain, you'll only do 3. And I have known several people, there are several people here, including Hiani, who are now looking at having their sentences expunged because they were mischarged and pleaded guilty to things that they were not guilty of, just because they did not understand the nature of a plea bargain. So I would like to see that change. I would like to see the legislature actually address some of the issues in the prison system. This is no secret that things are not good inside. There is now a whole thing going on at Coffee Creek, which, if you got the mailing list from us, there was a report by the Oregon Justice Center called Death by 1,000 Cuts, about what it's like to be an inmate at the only women's facility in the state. And the governor is now convened an advisory committee, but everybody needs to be held accountable. Everybody in government, we need to hear what they're planning to do to improve the situation for all of the inmates across the state. Does that help any?
That clarifies just a little bit. I appreciate your candor on all that. So magic wand and keep. Let's see. Let's see. I would like to see the Oregon Department of Corrections completely defunded, but that's probably never going to happen. So I think it's something else. I think I would like to see accountability. I think that's key. Like, we all faced a lot of accountability in our lives, like getting to this place where we are now. And forgetting about everything outside of prison, the staff and folks inside face virtually no accountability for their actions. I mean, this is like, it is so corrupt. When the person who's supposed to be investigating you is think about this, the kitchen in a prison. Not great, pretty dirty, not wonderful. the food, gross. Who investigates the state? Well, the state. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's just like going around and around and around, and it's kind of like that with staff stuff too. I specifically am thinking about medical, the medical treatment, or malpractice, or whatever we want to call what's going on in the clinics and the prisons. It's awful, it's gross, it's bad. That needs to change. We need genuinely qualified, compassionate medical staff. Like, when you go to your primary care physician and you get all of your needs met, you need that in prison. People think, oh, you're in prison, you get free health care. I wouldn't send my dog to that thing for a vet. Like, I wouldn't do it, like, that's a huge one. I've seen people have things amputated that could have easily been solved because with just basic, I've seen foot amputated, finger, things that, we would never deal with on the street, just because it's easier or more cost efficient, or I think about too, like when someone has like a dental issue or something, the solution is pull a tooth. That is the only solution that you will get. It's never, let's treat this, let's figure out what's going on, underlying conditions. No, it's none of that. So, that's a big one that comes to mind. Accountability for the staff that work inside the prison systems, figuring out a way to say, you're not good, you don't need to be doing this, or at the very least, have a system in place for checking it. The grievance system in prison is a joke, everyone, huge joke. You file a grievance on anyone in prison, and guess what? You become a target by the correction staff or whomever immediately. That happens. It's happened to me. It's happened to lots of people that I know. So that's what's on my mind right now, that kind of accountability. And I like what you said about the elected officials and DAs and whatnot. I know I'm not going to just be a cheerleader for any prosecutor anywhere, but except maybe Fonnie Willis, but that's whatever, another thing. But I was so pleased when I did see some political willpower here in our city, in our county, to get our current DA, Mike Schmidt, elected. Perfect? No. Better than Underhill? Yes. That's his name, right?
Yeah.
I had to think.
I got kicked out of his office.
Good for you. That's a badge of honor. I've been kicked out of some offices too for different things, but I just when people come together, this is going to sound very Obama, change you can believe in, type of thing, but truly grassroots movements of people saying we have this shared value and then acting on that value, that really is the thing that changes the world. And regarding the criminal carceral system in our country, yes, we need to support candidates and people that are willing to say, can we do this more equitably? Can we do this and cause less trauma for people? Can we do this and actually find transformative solutions that make people whole and that help people heal and move past it, and not just traumatize or punish or perpetuate a system that's going to keep people in this caste I mentioned before forever, right? That's what I have to say.
All right, so what I would like to see change is the access to treatment in prison. It's called AIP. Not everybody gets it. It has to be mostly court-ordered. When you get to prison, they give you a generalized evaluation, and they give you an ACRE score is what it's called. If you have a low ACRE score, you don't get treatment. You can't even go voluntarily if you want it. And with, I would say probably 90% or higher of the people that are in prison, there's drugs and alcohol or gambling or whatever type of addictions involved in whatever their crime was and their traumas are. And I just think that it's terrible that most of the people that want to be in treatment, if it's not on the paper by the judge, you don't get to go. If you have a low ACRE score, you have to have a crime or that's, perpetual repeat drug crimes. I might not have had a drug crime, but my situation was very, very definitely related to an addiction. And I had to fight really hard, and I just got lucky that, I'm just gonna say I was gambling. And they finally got a group in there because she fought her way to come back and teach us, and it was for general population. Before, they would only let her do it in treatment. So the access to treatment is cut off to a big number of people that can really use it before they get out. Because you get there and you don't get treatment, you don't get help, then what are you gonna do when you get out? So that's what I would like to see change. I would like to see the general population treatment situation and access improve.
Shockingly, I have a funny story. But first, the takeaway is that these are people. All of us are people. And she said it's no secret that it's a bad place. It is a secret that it's a bad place. It's not a TV show, and people don't know how bad it is. It's a secret. So, with that in mind, first day I got there, you go from one little room to another little room with a bunch of people, and then you're standing on a line. And you stand on that line, and you're going to get yelled at. And there's a very angry man in a uniform, and he has his clipboard. When I say your name, you read back your SID number. Now, for people who had been there before, you have a little number on your card, and this is now your number. You're supposed to know this number. If you've never been there before, you have a card with your picture on it, and you don't know that number is important. First gentleman gets his name called. He says his back his number right away, turns right, takes 2 steps. And I think, ooh, was I supposed to memorize that number? It's a big number. Next person, he knows his number, 2 steps, moves to the right. Uh-oh. He calls my name. I grab my tag and I turn it upside down so I can see it. 1815. That angry little man lit me up. What in the fuck are you doing? What's my number? This is who you are. This is your number. You need to know your number. Being a slight bit of a smart ass, he gave me another chance. He called my name. And I turned it back over. 18156. What are you doing? I said, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I have dyscalculia. It's dyslexia with numbers. And I saw him twitch. Like maybe he knows somebody with dyslexia. And I said, we can stand here all day long, and you can ask me all day long. But if I can't look at it and read it, I could just guess numbers all day long. Silence. A lot of big dudes. I'm not standing up, but I'm not very big. A lot of big dudes doing this. I wonder what's going to happen to that little fella. The little guy with the clipboard stepped close, like he thought nobody else was going to hear in this little cement room, and he goes, just do the best you can. Take your 2 steps. Took my 2 steps, never had to say my number. Took my 2 steps and got real quiet. Next people, big line. He gets behind us and goes, through the gate. And the guy in front of me goes, that was awesome. And I said, best part is, it isn't true. Because I am a person, I'm not a number. She is a person, she is not a number. That's what I would like people to take away. These are all people. And if you give people a chance, you give them a garden, they'll come back and they will grow as well.
We are in a maker's space here, and it's a very interesting place. Past Lives was founded by two gentlemen who did time together in South Fork. Actually, Kiani was part of the Dungeons and Dragons group that they all had up there. And is PJ still here? There she is. She's going to explain what this space is, and then she's going to offer you a tour if you want to see what it is. It's a really interesting place.
I'm PJ, I'm the marketing director here, Past Lives Makerspace. If you're not familiar, we're a 26,000 square foot makerspace with wood shop, blacksmithing shop, with blacksmithing forge, metal fabrication, and metal smelting. We have a stained glass studio, a tech hub with CNC and 3D printing. We have a textile studio with screen printing, auto embroidery, and leatherworking. A photography darkroom, and believe it or not, more. We just broke 150 members within our art collective, and membership is on a sliding scale of $110 to $160 a month, and that grants you, 24/7 access to all of those facilities. We're also a licensed contractor with an in-house design build team, and we provide employment opportunities and skills training for formerly incarcerated workers. We accept commissions of all sizes, and our facilities enable multimedia, one-of-a-kind ideas to come to life, so anything from just paintings to custom furniture or full home remodeling and building. We have customizable private studios available for rent by the square foot. We host art galleries, public classes for age 10 and up, panels like this one, and other members-only events like monthly potluck dinners and members-only open mics, hopefully to open those up to public in the future. So like I said, Past Lives was founded by Morlock, who couldn't be here this evening, and began strategizing and building this business while they were incarcerated. We have a prison outreach program that supports currently incarcerated artists, and we sell their work in our gallery, with some sales bringing in more than an average inmate makes in a year. Our gallery is currently between shows, as you can see, but that only goes to show that we're in a very big building phase of the business. We've almost finished installation of our ceramic studio, and we recently broken ground on a new community garden. So the Garden Guild wants to continue expanding the opportunities the members have here, not only for educational opportunities and more skills learning, to have a break and get some fresh air, but also to provide them with food and medicinal herbal support. So currently, our Garden Guild is selling seed bombs over there to fundraise, and it's pay what you can, and we welcome your support. So if you'd like to learn more about the Makerspace, our prison outreach program, or our budding community garden, welcome to come talk to me, or John, our membership director, who will be giving tours, and I'll just be hanging out back there. Thank you so much for coming. Drive safe, all that jazz, yeah.
Thank you all for coming. I know this is a difficult thing for people to do, to kind of revisit this. You know, you want to put it behind you, but let me tell you, 50 years later, you can't really ever run away from it. So the thing to do, or at least for me, is to take it and do good with it, which is why I come back in, even though the hall in Medium at Coffee Creek freaks me out and wants to make me run. I have had PTSD attacks just walking down that hallway. It looks way too much like Arizona State Women's Penitentiary. You know, we need to change things. We really do. The themes are consistent. What people are saying is very consistent. So it starts with well-meaning people holding our state representatives' feet to the fire. You know, also the federal government, because they're also involved in this. Actually making active change. I think the hard thing is it's going to cost money to make active change. And we're really reluctant to spend money because nobody wants to talk about prisons, except us. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. face.